So we've done all of our usuals. And the last one is cannabis. And you had mentioned Aphria reported. So tell folks what they're telling you, which is like
Yeah.
confirming what we've been saying.
Yeah. So basically, their business is doing great, not unlike a lot of other pot businesses. But Aphria reported that their sales have grown 100% year over year. Meanwhile, their stock is right near like all-time lows. It's gotten beaten way down, and the company is valued at an extremely low level, considering that it doubled their growth in sales in the past year. So, these pot stocks we've been talking about have some of them have really had to temper their growth a little bit because they try to get too ahead of themselves. They were kind of growth at all costs to begin with, but they found out quickly that the expenses of doing that were too high for the amount that they were able to sell. Aphria is one of the ones that didn't quite do that. They kind of just were slow and steady throughout the whole thing, and that's really turned out to pay off, but their price has still gotten beaten way down. But overall, the marijuana industry is doing amazing, especially in the US. And we've said before about how, more states are going to legalize it once they see how much states are bringing in tax revenue. California and Colorado have brought in million or billions of dollars in tax revenue just between those two states alone. So there's a lot of money to be made, not just by investors, but also by state governments in this sector. So that's really going to help sales down the road. It's going to help more companies open as more states legalize. The U.S. is a great market for this, and Aphria is kind of, I think it's really one of the first dominoes to fall in this earnings season, where people are going to realize that this is not as bad as the stocks are factoring in, which is basically that these companies are going to go bankrupt. But that's really not a practical case to make, considering what's happening with their growth.
And then, I mean, last week we mentioned that Hexo, they found investors to buy $45 million worth of stock. So investors get that, the most important thing in the business is that you need people to want what you are selling. Without that, there is no business. And
Yeah.
so this is not a problem that cannabis companies have.
Yeah, and that was like, I think, the fourth time in the past few months that Hexo has managed to get like tens of millions of dollars from investors to sell their stock to. So, I mean, Hexo was one of the most beaten down stocks. So if they can pull that off, getting over 100 million overall in the past few months from outside investment, then that's a great sign for the marijuana sector as a whole.
And those investors are what we would call strong hands because
Yeah.
they know, I mean, what they're buying, and they're not going to sell for 10% more, 20% more. They're looking to make hundreds, if not thousands of percent.
Right.
So usually those kinds of things, usually mark a bottom. And MJ, I believe, has not made a new low in any time recently.
No, it went down. I think it was last month was like the ninth straight negative month that MJ had,
Right.
which, when you consider again the growth, makes almost no sense. These stocks were already beaten down, and then the whole coronavirus panic happened in the market, sold them off even more. But I see that as an even better chance to buy in. And like I said last week, 100% positive that MJ has bottomed for good, and I'm going to keep sticking by that.
Yeah, and the demand and supply balance in terms of the stock is now firmly in terms of those who own it. So people, if you want to come and own it, you're going to need to bid the prices of these cannabis stocks up. So that's a very, very bullish, optimistic scenario.